This vlog ended up being not only a completion of my Readathon Rebellion journey, but it turned into an exploration into extreme horror. Just to give you a sneak peek into what to expect, I essentially chose 3 popular horror books that have varying levels of gore and violence because I really wanted to test my limits of how extreme was too extreme and do I have any trigger warnings at all. So join me on this journey of exploring horror and dipping my toes into the extreme at the start of this spooky season. This is going to be the 3rd and final Readathon Rebellion vlog. Let's get into the next roll. Okay, for my next roll, I rolled a 5, so let's move 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it looks like I landed on the side quest and I'm just catching up to Unicorn, and I rolled a 4, so I'll be reading for prompt number 4. Then I'm also going to take a look at objective number 3 here because I'm so close to it. I might just combine those because I can just cross the bridge. Let me go ahead and see what those prompts are. Okay, what are the chances that side quest prompt number 4 is actually one that I've gotten before? So I'm going to re-roll. It's the read the weapon on the cover prompt, and I just got that one. So of all the prompts I could have landed on, crazy that I rolled the exact same one. So I'm just gonna roll really quick right here, and I got a 9. So let's go to side quest number 9 instead. This journey will be too slow on foot. Make sure that every member has a horse to ride. Read a book with an animal companion. Okay, let me see if I could possibly combine that with objective number 3. You know where she's being held. You now have reliable information on the layout of the dungeon. It's time to go after your leader. Break the Silent Spectre out and bring her home by any means necessary. Be careful. There may be additional challenges along the way. Read a book with an action word in the title. Okay, I'm gonna definitely have to think about these 2 prompts, and I will get back to you when I figure it out. For the objective 3 prompt, even though we haven't technically landed on it yet, but we will in the next roll, so I'm just gonna go ahead and peek ahead to it. For the book with an action word in the title, I'm gonna go with the In the Void Book Club Quarter 4 book, which is Breathe In, Bleed Out. You will have seen in my last vlog, if you watched it, when I went to Barnes & Noble with my best friend Unicorn, and we went shopping for this book. And we're both doing Readathon Rebellion, so we will be reading this for the book club and for objective 3. This is a horror slasher. What I've read about this from the back of the book is that a woman loses her fiance in a mysterious death sort of way. Nobody really knows what happened to him. So as she's grieving over her dead fiance, her friend group gets an exclusive invitation to this restorative spiritual spa retreat. And it says that she reluctantly accepts the invitation and agrees to go and try to do a fresh start of her life. So while she's there, it basically turns into a good old-fashioned slasher where people in the retreat start dying one by one. So it sounds like it's going to be a really fun time, and I'm excited to jump into this one. I also wanted to show you guys that I got a TBR cart. I found it on OfferUp for 20 bucks. I do really like it plain black, but I wanted to kind of spruce it up a little bit, so I bought some twinkle lights and spooky Halloween lights, and we're gonna see if they are cute. If they're ugly, I'm just gonna go ahead and return them, but if they look good, I'll keep them, and that'll be some spooky decorating.
Got a psycho trapped within, can't contain her, crawling underneath my skin. She's got humor, she's just one of a kind, out of mind. She's a rebel, always on the move. She's an outlaw, she's a bimbo and an info. Is she human? pretty when you're out of your mind and fucked up inside. Oh, one too many times I wake up bruised, and I try to take a risk, but I fucking love that bitch. She's a part of me, I don't wanna let go. She's a part of me, I don't wanna let go. No, she's a part of me, I don't wanna let go. She's a part of me, I don't wanna let go. No, she's a part of me, I don't wanna let go. She's a part of me, I don't wanna let go. No, she's a part of me, I don't wanna let go. She's a part of me, I don't wanna let go. No.
Okay, I finished Breathe In, Bleed Out by Brian McAuley, and this is the first book I've ever read from him. And I have to say, just right off the bat, I didn't like it. I thought I was gonna like it. It was amusing at first because I was born and raised in Los Angeles County and I recognize the types of people that are in this book. So I thought that was really amusing. The very like Abbott Kinney, wellness, yogi type of people. And I thought it was interesting that the main character is going with her friends to this wellness healing retreat. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool like premise to put them out in the desert, out in Joshua Tree. And I was interested to see where it was going. I think I was just expecting a Terrifier level bloodbath, but instead I got a Scooby-Doo murder mystery. So yeah, I just don't think the writing was for me. I feel like the most interesting part of this book was the author's note at the end where he was talking about how he's a lover of horror films and slasher films. And I thought that was really interesting because I also am a big fan of horror movies. So I could see where his inspiration, his love for slashers came from. I just didn't find this story to be interesting to me at all. I was bored the entire time. I don't think the kills were very good. I think the overall motive behind the killer was ridiculous. I felt like this was so cheesy. I might be in the minority. I'm actually really curious to see what kind of reviews keep coming out as more people read this book. It did just come out September 2nd, so this is actually really new. Honestly, the only reason I picked it up is because this was our Q4 book club book for In the Void book club. So I think most of the people in the book club haven't even read it yet. We're not even meeting to talk about it until like the beginning of November. I just jumped on it a lot quicker than I normally would have because of my role for Readathon Rebellion, and it kind of just fell into the perfect prompt. And I had just recently bought it, so I was kind of excited to just start it, but I would be interested to read his debut novel because Curse of the Reaper sounds like it would be right up my alley. I feel like that book is like a horror band's book, and that just from reading the synopsis of that one, it sounds like really intriguing to me as a horror film fan. So I would give this author another shot for that book specifically. I really thought the kills were going to redeem the story not being interesting to me, but even that was so mild that I was not entertained at all. It was like 2 stars for me.
Look at this little guy. It's a little baby. So cute. I just had to show you. Oh, I love possums.
Okay, going back to that side quest prompt about needing a book with an animal companion, honestly, the first book that came to my head was Shy Girl by Mia Ballard. And hear me out. This book is about a girl who has major debt and she goes on a sugar daddy website, and this guy offers to remove all of her debt in exchange for her being his devoted pet. So she essentially needs to be his dog, his animal companion. That's the premise of this book. Now, to my understanding, this book was indie published in March of this year, and it has been picked up for traditional publishing, and so it's going to get a brand new cover, I believe, and it's going to come out at the beginning maybe of 2026, or I think it was maybe around April. So when I found out that this cover specifically was getting taken off the market, I looked everywhere for it. Luckily, I found somebody had listed it on Pango literally 5 minutes before I went to that site to look for it. And thankfully, they were not charging an arm and a leg for it. So I snatched up this copy because I absolutely love this cover. And I was just worried that I wouldn't like the new one. Plus, I didn't want to wait till next year to read this book that everybody's been talking about. I have heard this book is pretty intense and gets really brutal. I heard some people even classify this as extreme horror. I don't know. I have not personally read much or any extreme horror. I don't know exactly what constitutes extreme horror versus horror. We're still dabbling, okay? We're getting there. All I know is that I have been dying to pick this up, and I am going to use this animal companion prompt as my excuse to actually read this right now. I don't care if you think that that doesn't count because I'm doing it. Eee! Okay, so technically I'm still working right now, but I decided that on my break I wanted to give you an update on where I was at with Shy Girl because this book has me hooked and it is a very quick read. Like I am blowing through this. It's really short. I think it's only like 214 pages and I'm so intrigued that I keep wanting to continue to see where this is gonna go. I feel like because I know that it is horror and even extreme horror, I am like anticipating something bad happening. Like if I had no idea that this was gonna take that turn, I would just be like, oh, this is like a dark romance, and I would be intrigued and I would think like, oh, they're getting into some BDSM, like this is gonna be some pet play, age gap, like sugar daddy, dark romance material, and I'd be invested all the same. However, because I already know that this is not a dark romance and there is no love story here, I am proceeding with caution. And every step that occurs has me terrified because I am dreading what is to come. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I know that it's going to take a turn and I'm not sure when. So far, I am on chapter 10, which is page 81. You know, right off the bat, she goes on the Sugar Daddy website. She starts talking to this one guy. She's very intrigued by him. The whole beginning kind of sets up how in debt and desperate she is for this money, like how badly she needs this money. Because, you know, why else would she get into this situation and why else would she let it go as far as it does, I'm presuming. So you have to kind of set it up with she is absolutely depressed. She's on the verge of, you know, suicidal thought. She's getting evicted from her apartment. She has no way to pay her bills. She is out of a job. It's really setting up the background of, you know, what her childhood was like, why she would even consider this man's proposal. So far, there hasn't been anything crazy happening, but I have just gotten to the part where he has made the proposal of like what the criteria is for this transaction. Essentially, it's the part where he says, you know, I'm looking for somebody to be my dog. That's the gig. And I will pay you $2,400 a week to be my dog for 8 hours a day. And she says she has to think about it, and that's where I left off. So I am absolutely invested. I'm dying to see where this goes, and I'm a little scared. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I have finished Shy Girl by Mia Ballard, and I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it. I very much enjoyed it. I did tab it. So I did a lot of highlighting and tabbing along the way because I was very much enjoying it. I really went into this thinking that I was going to absolutely love it, 5-star read, because I was like, this sounds crazy. I'm all about it. Let's go. Okay, don't get me wrong. I did like it a lot. Okay, but it wasn't a 5-star. I'm honestly debating whether it's a 3.5 to 4-star for me. I'm really not sure which way I'm leaning, and maybe you can just help me decide. Let me just get into my thoughts and then you can help me figure this out, okay? So, first of all, I love the overall premise. I think this is such an interesting concept. I think her story is unique in the sense that, like, you just don't get a story like this all the time coming around. And also the way that she executed it felt different from what I was expecting it to be. And maybe that's a little bit of the reason why I felt a little bit let down, to no fault of the author. I think I went in thinking it was going to be something, and then it kind of like morphed into something else. And even though I do feel a bit let down because it didn't really go the way that I wanted it to, I also appreciate it for that at the same time. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't just the same story that I was already anticipating. She did have a unique take on this kind of story, so I have to respect that, actually. So yeah, I do want to read you a little bit of the author's note in the back so you can kind of get an idea of what the overall point of this story is, because it wasn't just horror or, you know, extreme for the sake of being extreme. I actually don't even think it was really that extreme, to be honest. Maybe I'm just a little dead inside, but I'm like a big fan of like Terrifier, right? So I'm used to horror with like massive gore on the screen for actually no reason. So this like dabbled into some of that like crazy body horror and gore and oh my god, that's intense. But to me it was very mild. So if you're not a big horror reader or watcher, you might be shocked by the things that are in here. But if you are somebody who reads a lot of horror, is not very squeamish when it comes to extreme horror or body horror, or you know, whether you're watching it or reading it, you're probably going to think this is pretty mild. Like, this is like a gateway into maybe something more extreme. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I haven't read a lot of extreme horror. I haven't really read any. I was excited to, because I'm a fan of, I don't want to say extreme. Well, like I said, I'm a big fan of horror films. So I'm just used to a lot more gore. Oh, but back to what I was saying. I wanted to read you the note. I feel like I was jumping all over the place. So I kind of want to just read you the whole thing. It's not long. It's literally just like this one page, and I'll read it quickly. If you're not interested, like, just fast forward, I guess. But I feel like you should be interested, because this is literally the reason why she wrote this. Okay, so I wrote Shy Girl because I wanted to explore the tangled intersection of power, control, and the resilience of women navigating impossible circumstances. It's a visceral dive into the claustrophobic grip of captivity and the psychological toll of manipulation, a situation far too many women around the world have faced in one form or another. At its core, this is a story about reclaiming agency, about revenge not as an act of malice, but as an assertion of autonomy in a world that often strips women of choice, dignity, and freedom. It is about confronting systems, by the societal, relational, or internal, that silence and oppress, and dismantling them piece by piece, no matter how messy or unpalatable the process might be. Women have always been cast as caretakers, peacekeepers, and forgivers. We're told to endure, to adapt, to rise above, but sometimes the only way to heal is rage. Sometimes justice isn't quiet or clean, it's feral and bloody and unapologetic. Shy Girl holds a mirror to the darkest parts of control and trauma, while also asking questions about survival and resistance. What does it mean to escape a cage, whether physical or metaphorical? How do you reconcile the parts of yourself shaped by those cages? And what does freedom truly cost? More importantly, it's a reminder women deserve to own their stories, their bodies, their futures, on their terms. And when their autonomy is stripped away,
revenge becomes less about vengeance and more about rewriting a narrative in which women refuse to remain victims. So for that alone, I say yes. Yes to everything in this book. Like, everything this was meant to be, I feel like it did accomplish. And for that, I'm thinking, amazing. Love this. Absolutely read this. If you can stomach the bit of gore and horror that is in this book, which honestly is not that much, I would say absolutely pick this up. I feel like this is palatable for most readers that are not afraid to dabble a bit into the horror realm, to get a little bit bloody, to get a little bit gross, but not, throughout the entirety of the book. The first half of the book is really slower in the sense of there's no gore. It's a lot of just build up, getting to know our main character Gia and where she is coming from. So it's really important, I feel, to have that beginning, because you need to know, where is this girl in her life that she is willing to accept this kind of a deal? There's also a very heavy mention of her having OCD. It's even written on the back, lonely, broke, depressed with a serious case of OCD. In the first half of the book, you really see her OCD taking place in the way that she goes about her day to day. The part about that confuses me is we lose everything that has to do with her OCD in the second half of the book. I feel like it never comes up again. It's very prominent in the beginning of her counting, of her doing things in repetition. To me, it was so prominent that I felt like, okay, this is going to be an important part of the story. She's going to use something with her OCD is going to come into play later on when she is escaping this situation, or this is going to really affect her in a worse way because she's so OCD, so maybe she's going to be even more traumatized or grossed out by everything that's happening because things are dirty, or you know what I mean? Like, but I didn't see that at all played into the second half of the book, which had me very confused. I will say that immediately Nathan pissed me off on the second meeting with this guy. So Nathan is the sugar daddy that she ends up having the agreement with, and he's the main male character in this, right? He's the antagonist. So the second time she meets him, they go to dinner and he orders for her. That irked me so much. Like, you don't know what she likes to eat. You don't even know her. Why would you order for her? And I was already so bothered, but I feel like you get a clear picture of Gia and who she is because she didn't stand up for herself. She didn't say anything. She wasn't outspoken in that way. And I think that's really reflective in the name that he gives her later, and he calls her Shy Girl. That's the name that he ends up putting on her collar, is Shy Girl. And I'm wondering if that, plays into the fact that she never speaks up for herself. Like, she never has a voice, essentially. She kind of just lets him control the narrative right from the very beginning, even before they're in the agreement. Like, she's just trying to be agreeable. She's trying to get him to want her, as if her value is dependent on what he sees about her. And I feel like that's something that women are just taught to do, is to be small. Don't take up a lot of space. Don't be loud. Don't be too opinionated. A man's not gonna like that. Even with a man that she has no romantic interest in, just somebody that she is going to have a transactional agreement with, she still feels like she has to appease him in this way. Like, she has no voice. She is less than. He has all the power because he has the money, and she's the desperate one that needs him. Therefore, she is less worthy of even choosing her own meal at dinner. That's crazy to me because really, she is part of this deal. Like, if she didn't give what she is offering to him, he would have nothing. Like, he wants something from her as well, but she doesn't see that. She sees herself as less, and she needs to be chosen by him instead of the other way around, where she has the choice of, her pick, because there's other guys messaging her. She just goes with Nathan because he's the first one that messaged her, and she just like, I'm just gonna go with this guy or whatever. But really, so many of these guys are sending her messages, so it's not like she has to appeal to them. In reality, they need to appeal to her, but she doesn't see it that way. She sees herself as less. She sees herself as desperate in a situation that she can't get out of, so she stays quiet. And what a commentary on women in relation to men in society. The more I talk about it, the more I'm leaning towards a 4-star. And the things that bugged me a little bit, I feel are not as important to drop it down to a 3.5. So I don't know. I'm going to keep, going over this in my brain, and we'll see where we land by the end of this. So the other part that kind of bugs me a little bit about the book, and the reason why I was maybe wanting to drop the stars down a little bit, is just because I feel like the writing wasn't as descriptive or all-encompassing that I wanted it to be. I think maybe I wanted it to be a little bit more literary. I like when a book is just easy to read, I can fly through it, but then there's sometimes where I feel like I kind of want more. Like, I felt like she was leaving too much out for my taste. Like, it is a short book, and I love short books, so I know I'm contradicting myself back and forth here, but sometimes when I'm really gripped by a story, I wish there was more of it. When you have a really good story with a really good plot, I actually want to be sucked more into this world. I don't want to give you too much about it to spoil it, but she is there with him in this situation that she falls into for a long time. I feel like a lot of those moments get kind of brushed over. We get snippets of like what happens to her, but there's never anything that kind of goes really into the full descriptions where we're feeling the full weight of how dark her situation is. I don't want to say never. She does go into that, and she does describe moments of that. I guess for me, it just didn't sound as bad because the descriptions were so brief, or the moments were so brief, or didn't get as graphic as I was expecting it to be. Because if you really think of somebody in this situation, and you really think of how graphic this predicament would actually be, like, I'm picturing graphic, messed up. And I think my relation comes to horror films that I've seen, and because we can see it with our eyes, we can see how grimy it actually is. But in a book, we can't see it visually, so we need those descriptions. We need those graphic details to really paint the picture of how bad the situation is. I think I just wanted more of those descriptions. I wanted to really feel the grime that she was in. And I feel like she dips a toe into it, and we really start to see like how bad it is, but she doesn't fully go there. You know what I mean? You might disagree with me. Some people might read this and be like, what are you talking about? This book is gross and extreme. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I wanted more. Like, I wanted to be in that space with her and really feel all of that pain and all of that anguish, because I was really thinking like, this is going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And by the end, she's going to have her good for her moment. I feel like by the end, I wasn't angry enough for the rage to really like seep in. I feel like I was more angry in the beginning when he ordered her meal. And then the rest of it kind of was just like, okay, I'm just reading what's going on day to day. And don't get me wrong, it was bad. But I don't know, for some reason, it just didn't click for me. And it didn't make me angry in the way like I should have been more angry. Maybe that was just me. I don't know. Doesn't take away from it. It was still amazing. It was still super fun to read. So engaging. I don't know. I'm just trying to be honest with my thoughts. Like, I don't want to go on here and say like, oh my God, this is the best book I ever read. I love it. And not give you like my real thoughts about it. Because did I love it? Yes. Do I recommend it? Yes. Would I maybe read it again? I don't know. Maybe I'd probably skim through all my tabs and just kind of like relive the story. But do I think it was a perfect book with perfect writing? No. Do I think there's probably better books out there that kind of have a similar story? Yeah, I think I do. And I think I'm kind of wanting that. I think this really enticed me to pick up a more extreme horror and see if that kind of scratches that itch, because the ending didn't really satisfy me in the way that I was hoping that it would. I think her transformation was very interesting. I do think there was moments that got kind of weird where I was kind of confused about why it kind of went a certain route, but like I get it. I'm pretty sure because it was like symbolic, I'm thinking, but it did feel strange of why there was choices for it to go in certain directions, specifically like the fur. I didn't really understand that, like specifically the fur. Like, was that happening? Was it like, what? That part kind of threw me off. But certain moments I can get past because the overall book was great. So yeah, I don't know, maybe a 3.75? That feels right. I think I'll go with a 3.75. And on Goodreads, because we can't round, I'll just put it as a 4 because I think I would rather round up than round down. This has really inspired me to want to pick up something more extreme. So maybe my next read, we will try to turn up the heat on that. Yeah.
Okay, for my next roll, I rolled a 4, which is going to get me to surpass Unicorn. So if you've placed your bets on who was going to finish first, you can go ahead and collect your winnings because I am definitely finishing before Unicorn. So let's move my 4 spaces, and I am going to cross the bridge because we are technically already into October, so I need to finish this vlog because technically the readathon is over, but you know what? It's not over until I finish rescuing the Silent Spectre. So we are going to rescue her, even though it's taking us a little bit longer, but it's okay because we are having fun. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we already completed objective 3, so we don't have to worry about that. And it looks like we landed on another side quest. I feel like every space I landed on this whole journey has been side quests, but that's okay because Mail included so many different prompts that even if you land on the same space, you're able to get different prompts and it's still a good time. So I have no complaints about that at all. It looks like on my next roll, I would be on the final space. So what I'm going to do is just combine these last 2 prompts so I can complete my journey to rescue the Silent Spectre and finish chapter 1 of Readathon Rebellion. I'm just going to place my player token on that finished space just to show that I am actually completing the map there. And we're done. Well, I still need to read the last book, but yay! Side quest prompt number 6 says, it's slow going on the path to the mountain, and you know the climb is going to be even harder. You know there must have been a way the guards used to get back and forth. Find their path. Read a hyped book. Nice. And then last but not least, we are combining with objective number 4, and that is, you have arrived at the prison and made it inside. After a few roadblocks and challenges, the Silent Spectre is free from the cell, but can you make it out of the mountain? Read a fast-paced book. Open to interpretation. Okay, how perfect is that? A fast-paced, hyped book to make it out from the mountain with the Silent Spectre and escape unscathed. So since this reading vlog essentially turned into a horror reading vlog, I'm gonna have to stick with the horror vibes, which is actually perfect for October anyways. And because I've gone from mild to mid and now leaning into wanting to go extreme, I think I really need to follow that trajectory that I'm on and choose a hyped, fast-paced, extreme horror book. And I was a little concerned because I know that horror, and especially extreme horror, isn't usually what you would consider hyped because it's not often very mainstream, so not a ton of people are talking about extreme horror. However, there is one extreme horror book that constantly comes up when you are exploring the realm of extreme horror. So once you dabble into that and you start finding the creators on Bookstagram and BookTube and maybe even BookTok, I don't know because I don't use it, but once you start exploring that subgenre, there is one book that I have heard of over and over again, talked about, recommended, so much so that I went out of my way to buy this book earlier this year because I wanted to dip my toe and see what it was all about, and I actually haven't picked it up. Surprise, surprise. But I feel like now is the perfect time because there's no doubt in my mind that when it comes to extreme horror, this is no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, this is extreme horror, and nobody would question that whatsoever. Let me not leave you in suspense. If you've peeked behind my shoulder, you might have already seen the book that I'm talking about. And that is Playground by Aron Beauregard. If you're not familiar with this book, let me go ahead and read the back for you. It was described to me as Saw, but with children. So obviously, if you're interested in this book, check your trigger warnings. I don't really think I have any, so we're trying to see how far I can really push. Once in a lifetime, 3 low-income families have been given a handsome retainer to join Geraldine Borden for a day at her cliffside estate. All the parents must do to collect the rest of their money is allow their children to test out the revolutionary playground equipment Geraldine has been working on for decades. But there's a reason the structures in the bowels of her Gothic castle have taken so long to develop. They were never meant to see the light of day. When a band of dysfunctional children is suddenly thrust into a diabolical realm of violence, they must grow up instantly to have a chance at survival. Will they find a way to put their differences aside or be swallowed up by the insidious architecture all around them? So yeah, I'm excited. I mean, honestly, the cover, I feel, says it all, and that's what got my attention, if I'm being honest. So I'm really excited to see how extreme is extreme. How far can I push my own boundaries? Do I have triggers? I guess I'll find out when I finish reading this. I forgot that I made plans with a friend to go have dinner, and I decided one more chapter before it's time to go. And that was a huge error on my part, because I now have that feeling where, you know, when you start like salivating because you want to vomit? Yeah, that's the feeling I have right here, because I guess I was just doing a really good job of visualizing what the author was writing about. And yeah, and now I'm supposed to go to dinner. Great. Okay, so I am here to tell you that I finished Playground by Aron Beauregard, and I'm giving it 5 stars. Yeah, I feel like figuring out how to talk about this book is gonna be interesting. So bear with me. How do I say that this book was so much fun without sounding like a complete deranged psychopath? I really love the Saw franchise. So let that tell you something about me and my enjoyment already. Okay, I love every single one of those movies. I've given every single one of them 5 stars. I find them so much fun because I'm a lover of games and challenges. And so because there is a game element to that film, I find it highly entertaining. Watching the characters like figure out these puzzles, almost like an escape room, trying to get out of these life or death situations. And I feel like Playground is a mix of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory meets Saw, but make it children. And the main villain of the story, Geraldine Borden, she is this extremely wealthy woman who's absolutely deranged, and not in the way that I thought. Her motivations behind why she's doing this, why she built this death trap of a playground and wants to bring families in to test it, is not what I was expecting. Okay, that part gets really dark, really disgusting, really gross, and that's the part that I could have done without. I'm not really into gross, just the feelings of reading something that makes you literally want to vomit. That part's not the fun part for me. The parts that I mean, I don't mind it. Obviously, I read it and I got through it. There's not like a whole lot in the book. Honestly, there was 2 chapters that were really, really bad, and they were back to back. And I was like, this is so disgusting. I could like smell what he was writing. I'm too good at visualizing when I'm reading. So I was like, no, I don't want these images in my brain. But yeah, alas, I now have in my mind thoughts of things that I never have even thought to think. Things I didn't even fathom as an idea. You know, they live in my brain now. So that's the downside of reading, you know, or watching really like depraved things, you now have images that are probably going to stick with you. So I don't think extreme horror or splatterpunk is something that I would want to consume on a regular basis, because I don't want to have, too much of that constantly in my brain. I definitely need to read something else now that I've read that. Maybe something a little more cozy, a little more tame, palate cleanse from those thoughts and ideas. It does get pretty bad, at points, and you start thinking of the worst possible things and parts of humanity. Because even though you do read about this and you read these books and they're so exaggerated and ridiculous, like, it also kind of makes you think there could be people out there doing terrible things like this, like truly evil people. Like, we see it on the news all the time, like people doing really weird, messed up stuff to other people. The day-to-day normal person might not think of all these things. There are people out there that like do really messed up things like this. And yeah, I don't know. I hate to think about that for too long. But anyways, let's go back to the fun that is Playground, because it's a fictional story. So I'm not going to get into the too much of like anybody's backstory or why she's doing this or whatever. You just have to read the book for yourself. Plus, I think it's a little bit too depraved for YouTube. So you're just going to have to look up the trigger warnings and go in and discover that for yourself. I'll leave that for you to discover, just like I was left to discover. Because of all the reviews that I had seen, I guess I didn't look too deeply, and I did not know that it was going to go that route. Yeah, I'll just leave that in there for you. But absolutely, this is not a book for everybody. This is a book for a very limited amount of people, I would say, because this is really, really messed up. I don't think many people would enjoy this, and based on the reviews that I saw on Goodreads, not a lot of people rated it highly. I was immediately like, oh my god, what's wrong with me? Because for me, I was like, that 5 stars, that was so fun, it was so different. His writing, I felt, was really well written. I think he has a really fun way of describing things, and it didn't get old for me. Just hearing the way he described the gore and the violence, or the disturbing and disgusting, he was able to use so many different ways of describing, which was kind of like funny and silly and sometimes, but the fact that he was just able to think of so many different ways to say the same thing essentially and describe the same kind of elements throughout the book kept it new and fresh for me, and fun and interesting to read instead of just reading the same 3 adjectives over and over. I felt like he was very creative in the way he used his descriptors. And so for me, I thought his writing was really well done. There's some negative reviews in, like, when you go to Goodreads and stuff, of people that just like hate the book. There's like 1 star. Somebody was like, check the author's drives. And I always think that's funny, because like, I get it on one end, like, yeah, it's a really messed up book, like I get it, like, who would think of these things? But then also I'm like, well, why did you pick it up? Like, if you knew that this is a really messed up book, like, you can see the cover, right? Like, if you saw the cover of this book, you already know right off the bat if this is going to be a book for you or not. You know what I mean? I feel like Aron Beauregard would have like a very niche audience. And I do feel like I fall into that category. I actually really like his writing. I would absolutely read another book from him. He just came out recently this year with a prequel of Playground, and I think it's called Playground, Child of Divorce. And that kind of goes into a little bit more of the backstory for our main villain, kind of like previous, like how she got more into it, and like a previous test run with previous children, things like that. So I'm interested in picking that up. Maybe not immediately, because I think I need to settle my brain a little bit and like read some other things in between, but I would absolutely pick up another one of his works. The other thing that I was worried about is, like, when you get into the idea of extreme horror or maybe even splatterpunk, I was worried that the writing just wasn't going to be good. Like, it was just going to be gross for the sake of being gross, just for shock value. I was like, how well could the writing be done for things like this? But no, like, I feel like he's a really good writer. And again, based on people's opinions, I saw many reviews that were literally claiming the opposite of what I'm telling you. They were like, he can't write, it's so awful, like, who wrote this, like, it's trash. Again, reading is subjective, enjoyment is subjective, but I thought it was really well written. I thought he goes into a lot of really good character development throughout the book. I thought the characters had really good backstories, and you really saw the differences between each and every character and all the children, and they had clear images of who they were as people in my mind. And maybe, were some of them a little bit stereotypical or whatever? I mean, sure, whatever. They're characters in a book. Like, I don't know. Like, it's not always going to be the most realistic thing. But, the story itself is just for funsies, for entertainment. Okay. It's not going to be the most full of depth story. But, but actually, this story did have depth to it. I mean, it went into how people deal with trauma and, are monsters born or are they created, nurture or nature? And it really went into that idea. And there was so much more to this book by the end of it that there was moments where I got a little teary-eyed. I'm not gonna lie, especially the very end, I was actually kind of tearing up for that final scene. I feel like if you are a person to kind of really give this book a chance and not just, get drawn away because it's so gross at times or really gory or, oh my gosh, children are involved. If that stuff doesn't bother you, you might actually have fun with this book. You might actually enjoy it, and you also might see deeper meaning in the story. But I had really fun watching the kids kind of solve the puzzles and go through the challenges, and that part was exciting and fun. That felt like Saw to me. And there was definitely moments where my heart was racing and I was like, oh my God, are they gonna make it? Are they gonna make it? And so yeah, there was characters I was rooting for. There was characters that I was like, oh my God, they're such jerks, kill them off, But it just watching a horror film. I feel like he captured all those elements so well that it really read on the page, and I was having such a good time. There was no chance for me to be bored with this book. It kept me on my toes the entire time. I kept wanting to see what was going to happen next. The stakes were so high that I really wanted to just keep reading. I never wanted to put it down. Something else I also noticed was the length of the book. So this book, at least the edition that I have, is 330 pages. And I've noticed that I like books in that sweet spot around 300 to 400 pages because I feel like that gives the author enough time to really develop the characters, give you a little bit of world building, have you actually care and actually make development over the course of the time of the book. I feel like when books are under 300 pages, it's a lot harder for me to get invested in the story. I'm not going to say that it never happens, but I have noticed that it has been a little bit harder for me to really enjoy a lot shorter books. So novellas specifically, or a short story, or maybe a book that's only 200 pages or 250 pages. It's a lot harder for me to really have enough time with these characters and the world to care as much than when I read a book like this one, which is 330 pages. I was completely invested in this whole world and all the characters and what's going to happen, to the point where, yeah, I want to pick up the second book and get more of these characters and this world. But that was just something I noticed. Another thing I want to say, because I did go to Goodreads and kind of look at some of the reviews. I haven't posted a review myself yet, but I was curious. When I finish a book, I like to see okay, do people agree with my thoughts? Do people not agree? And I love to see kind of both sides, because sometimes it gives me another perspective that maybe I didn't think of. So a lot of the reviews that I saw which were against the book were kind of mentioning that maybe the author doesn't really know about women, or he doesn't understand how the woman's body works. Geraldine wasn't gross, she was just old, and that's really rude and against women. And I get where they were coming from, maybe, and it made me second guess. I was I literally had to go back and check the book and read some of those chapters where he really describes how disgusting she is, and why, and what descriptors he was using, and why exactly is she disgusting. And yes, she is an older character. I think she's maybe she has to be late 60s, 70s. I forgot if he gives an actual age, but yes, she is an old woman. And he does describe her in very disgusting like she's so gross, right? I'm not going to use the descriptions that he uses or go into detail, but yes, he does do that. And so I did have to go back and read, and I was like, oh, is this misogyny? Is this sexist? In my opinion, decide for yourself, but in my opinion, no. It's not, because if you really read the book and paid attention to how he's describing her and why he's describing her in that way, she's not gross because she's old or doesn't use soap or whatever. She's old because she doesn't take care of herself. So she is diseased, and she does not treat these diseases that she has. So she has infections and fungal irritations on her skin. Like, there's things going on in her body because she is a dirty person. It's not just because she doesn't use soap in areas that you shouldn't use soap in as a woman. That's not what that was. I think people got hung up on this like one line that he put about soap, and it's just, I feel like they just missed the whole descriptions of her being, I'm not a writer, so I don't have a better way of just saying diseased. She's diseased. That's why she's disgusting. The other reason why she's disgusting, and I feel like people are forgetting to think about this when they're going in on Aron for these descriptions of her, is because she is an abuser. There are clear moments of abuse, and for that, she is a vile, depraved, disgusting human being. And that's where I feel his descriptions are stemming from. Not because the author hates women or thinks women are gross or thinks old women are gross. I don't think it had anything to do with that. It just played into why she herself was so unpalatable, because her as a person and who she was and what she was into, that was a lot. I started to edit this video and I can't believe I almost forgot to show you that there are 15 illustrations in the physical copy of Playground. Now, I'm not going to show you all of the illustrations because YouTube, but if you are a person like me who loves illustrated books, then you might want to pick this book up. So these were some of the more tame photos in the beginning of the story. I don't want to show you any of the rest of them because they could be spoilers, and I want you to be excited and surprised when you read it for yourself. But yeah, I had to show you that. One of my favorite parts of this book experience. That's just my 2 cents. I had a really good time with it, despite some of those really extreme elements. I've learned that I am really into some dark stuff, and I am able to palette darker themes and enjoy them. And sometimes I want that revenge, and I want it to be described to me in like full detail, which is funny because in my real life, I am not like that at all. I am 100% like no conflict. I don't even want people to get in an argument, like no fighting, no violence. Things disturb me so easily, and I'm such a sensitive person. But when it comes to consumption of horror films or horror books, that's where I get my fix of all of that, is just in this fantasy realm where this doesn't actually exist. I would never survive a real saw trap in real life. I would not be able to stomach any of it, I'm sure. I'm weird, I guess. And if you're weird too and you think you would actually like this book, then I highly recommend it. If you think that this is a little bit too much for you, I would highly recommend that you do not pick this book up. Okay, if this does not sound interesting to you, if what I've described sounds like really extreme to the point where you're like, what the heck is that? I am questioning your choices, do not pick this book up. Maybe extreme horror is not for you. It's absolutely not for everybody. I can see that. But yeah, I think I will be dabbling into more extreme horror and splatterpunk in the future. I don't think it's gonna be like my favorite genre that I read all the time, but I will be sprinkling it in to my reading from here on out. Anyways, if we forgot why I was doing this initially, this was for the Readathon Rebellion created by Melanor Reads. Thank you again, Mel, for creating this amazing readathon that I am far overdue on finishing since it is October now, but it's okay because I had a blast. The prompts were great, and what's fun about it is a game board that you can just continue playing anytime you want, essentially. So even though sprints are done and, you know, people are not really talking about it as much, this might even be fun to just go back and go through the board again and try to see what other prompts you get. So yeah, look into it. Again, I'm gonna have her video linked down below, which she has all the documents in there linked. So if you are interested in actually playing, I would suggest you do it. And just remember that in any readathon or any challenge, you don't have to stick to any certain genre. You can make it your own. Like, Mel is very into reading fantasy and romantasy, and I completely took her readathon and made it my own, and started reading horror books and even got in some extreme horror into my prompts. So, you know, you can participate in any readathon, any challenge, and just make it fit what you want to read. Okay, so just remember that, you know, there is room at the table for everybody, and I'm so happy that you came along with me on this adventure. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Happy spooky season, everybody!